All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Victorious Ones podcast. And of course, I go by the name of King Von Jr. For those that are watching on other platforms, if you're on YouTube, youtube.com/Von Resper Jr., that is where I post, like I said, exclusive content anytime I want to, anytime I want to be on camera. So, just give me a heads up. But of course, originally I was actually supposed to have a guest on for an interview. I was going to interview Ruthless Lala, who's the BCW champion. However, we had to reschedule it for a later time. So just giving a heads up on that. So, however, show must go on. I still have to at least find a way to pivot. This is my way of making a pivot. You know what I mean? So so even with that, there's still other like plenty of wrestling content right now going on. And of course, I'm wearing my needle mover shirt because the needle mover himself, Roman Reigns, made his appearance on Raw, and he declared that that this is his yard, this is his throne, this is his mountain, whatever whatever it is you want to name it. This is his time, and that he's head and shoulders above everybody else, and he's not phased by Logan Paul. In fact, I will say that the only Logan that I acknowledge is Wolverine. Those are my words, but of course, without further ado, I like to go into my predictions for Crown Jewel, and of course, at the very, of course, in the intro for this, for this episode, of course, I like to, at least like to let, let everybody know that there was breaking news from WWE that in the wake of the recent events, the recent attacks over Saudi, actually WWE has decided to relocate Crown Jewel, to somewhere else, but it's going to be here in the United States. So I felt like that was a smart move. You know what I mean? So so as far as that's concerned, now like I said, without further ado, I like to give my predictions on Crown Jewel. I know like yesterday I was in the Twitter space. Shout out to Mimi. Hopefully she's watching again. And I just happened to be in Twitter space with her and nephew Corey, where everybody and many other people were giving our predictions on Crown Jewel. So so of course I'm going to give a rundown of the card. So so pretty much like I'm going to go from 1 to 8. So this show has eight matches on the card. So the first match of the night is actually the undisputed, of course, the undisputed WWE Universal Championship match. The Tribal Chief Roman Reigns versus YouTube, boxing, whatever, sensation right now, Logan Paul. So that's match number 1. Match number 2 is going to be the OC with AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Carl Anderson versus the Judgment Day, which includes, of course, with Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio with Rhea Ripley, 6-man tag. And of course, there's been talks that there may be another woman that gets involved with this to match up with Rhea Ripley. Let me give my prediction on that in a minute. Match number 3, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. This to me is probably going to be the blockbuster of the night. This is just in my estimation. That's match number 3. Match number 4 is Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross in a steel cage match, by the way. Match 5, Braun Strowman versus Omos, accompanied by MVP. Match number 6, the last woman standing match for the Raw Women's Championship. The EST herself, Bianca Belair, defends the title against Bayley, a.k.a. Pam with the Yams. If you know, you know. Match number 7 is a tag, is for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. The Usos versus the Brawling Brutes, Rich Holland and Butch. And finally, of course, the tag team match for the women's tag titles. The champions Alexa Bliss and Asuka versus Damage Control, Dakota Kai and Io Sky. So that's the rundown for for this year's Crown Jewel. So far so good. I'm liking what I see when it comes to a card standpoint. and I like how I like how they pivoted, much like how I've had to pivot tonight. You know what I mean? So and the thing about it is that like of course like I said, I like, the thing is, people can say what they want to, in terms of what they feel about how they feel about Triple H's direction. He's had plenty of hits. He's had, his fair share of misses recently, but all in all, I like the direction that he's going in, and especially considering, considering how you have to be in touch with the times, and this was very smart on WWE's card, to pull this event, like I said, honestly, out of Saudi, because under Vince's regime, we still would have gotten that, and who knows what could have happened to to anybody from WWE. You know what I mean? So I'm just being honest, which I'm not demonizing Vince or anything like that, but this is once again goes to show that that it was best for for him to to step down and to be gone. In fact, side note, the settlement money, I'll say it like this. Side note, WWE completed their investigation, and so the total, the total that Vince paid out in quote unquote hush money, kitty cat money, if you will, as I call it, it came up to $19.4 million. So Vince paid nearly $20 million for the cat, for the kitty cat, if you will, in hush money, using shareholders' money. So, you know what I mean? So, once again, Vince has gotten the boot, and, and just saying, under him, we still would have been, still would have been in Saudi Arabia, still would have been having nostalgia matches for no reason at all. But yeah, like, but of course, like I said, when it comes to this card, we've come a long way from having that train wreck of a tag match with DX versus Brothers of Destruction, where Shawn Michaels was bald, and we consider that to be non-canon. You know what I mean? So so like I say, we've come a long way by leaps and bounds. And so certainly better than last year's triple threat women's match, where like so, we had Becky for versus Sasha and Bianca. You know what I mean? Like that kind of left. Plus that was at the same time that Becky was big time Bex. So it's like whatever. But like I said, without further ado, I'm going to go into my predictions. So right off the top, for me, like I said, right off the top, Roman versus Logan, I got Roman taking him. Even though Logan has been training with Shawn Michaels, I know when Shawn was was interviewed on Logan's podcast. When and the funny thing is when they're asking him about what he thought about this match, pretty much HBK was kind of like whatever, you can even tell even he knows that Logan ain't got that much and don't really have no chance. You know what I mean? And and plus, I doubt that Roman's going to get knocked out. You know what I mean? If anything, it's hard for me to see Roman go down at the hands of a YouTube influencer after he has had wars with the likes of Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? Like that series of that entire war series, which ultimately culminated in a last man standing match where Roman had to stack everything on top of Brock to make sure that he didn't get up. So that was his way of conquering the Frankenstein. You know what I mean? So after going through that, which any type of match with Brock would shave years off your career. You know what I mean? Like I said, the fact that Roman survived that, You know what I mean? And not only that, but he's had great battles with Edge and Daniel Bryan. Most famously that triple threat match at WrestleMania 37, all time classic. The Clash of the Castle with Drew McIntyre. You know what I mean? Like if anything, if anything, Roman was he was definitely on the ropes for that one, without question. You know what I mean? So so if nothing else, I wouldn't have been too mad if if Drew happened to win. Like I said, like I said, matches with that, matches such as that, SummerSlam match with John Cena. I've already gone over, Roman's catalog multiple times, whether it's on this podcast or or in articles, things like that. So everybody knows, everybody knows already. Like look at the Last Man Standing match with Kevin Owens, yada yada yada. But I say all that to say that Roman has gone through all that type of stuff, and I cannot see him getting winded and and pushed to the limit by Logan Paul, a YouTube influencer. You know what I mean? And Roman is, and like I said, I'm going to the, going to that later on. But like I said, Roman is hands down the top guy. I mean, all across wrestling, period, not just WWE, but just wrestling in general. So I don't see him, I don't see him going down like that. You know what I mean? So so as far as the first match, I give it to the Tribal Chief to retain the championship. So so if anything, that this is just for the sake of entertainment value, bringing more eyes to the screen, that kind of thing. So why not? And plus, especially since Roman's schedule has been reduced to to that of a part-time schedule. So as far as that, I see Roman retain the title. The OC match versus Judgment Day. There been talks of possibly Piper Niven maybe coming in to be the woman to represent on the OC's behalf to go up against Rhea Ripley. So as far as that, that'd be very interesting. You never know. But in this case, it's just that Judgment Day has too much momentum going on their side. I have to give it to the Judgment Day in in that sense. And Rhea Ripley, her trajectory is absolutely incredible, especially when you look at what she's doing with the faction. She's grown by leaps and bounds compared to the time that to the time that when she was a champion. And so like Rhea as a champion was very lukewarm, if not just cold, period. But now, like I said, her stock is elevated to the point where she slammed, I repeat, slammed Luke Gallows. And Luke Gallows is not built like Rey Mysterio, whether it's WCW, Rey Mysterio, or even now. You know what I mean? So he's far from a cruiserweight, and for Rhea to pick him up, I mean, that's absolutely incredible. If anything, Rhea is the one who really, really moves the needle for that group. And I've said it before, Rhea Ripley is to Judgment Day what David Ruffin was to the Temptations. Rhea Ruffin. Ain't nobody come to see you, Finn. So, so with that being said, Rhea is definitely the X factor for the Judgment Day to pick up the win. This is just my prediction and my estimation. So match number 3, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. I'm enjoying their rivalry. For a long time, this was considered to be a dream match. So now they've gone to. Now the thing is, the dream match has been fulfilled. The dream match has gone even further than just a one-off match. Now it has become, has exceeded that. Like if anything, this exceeded. Like the whole dream match thing has become. Like I said, is more than fulfilled that expectation. And I like the way that that Brock Lesnar is really giving Bobby more credibility. Not that he didn't have credibility, but also at the same time, I think it's important for Bobby to get a clean W over Lesnar. You know what I mean? And so, and the thing about it is that, is that Bobby is having the finest run of his entire career. Um, However, on this night, um, just because this guy's pretty popular when it comes to Crown Jewel, um, at least just because of his past resume with them and everything like that. Just for this night, I would have to go with Brock Lesnar. However, I think that and the reason why I would go with Brock is because um, I think that Bobby's biggest win, like the place where Bobby's really going to get that uh, validating win or whatever. I think the place that Bobby really gets that solidifying W would be a Survivor Series, Survivor Series War Games. So I could see the feud going, like extending from Crown, from where we are, Crown Jewel, going into Survivor Series, which is the bigger stage. You know what I mean? Like and so Bobby getting a win there would carry more weight. Excuse me. And as I said last night, in Spaces, and I'm not gonna like jump to conclusions or anything like that, but Bobby getting a W, especially a clean W, especially on a platform like Survivor Series, would do miracles for him. For me, like I said, not to jump to complete conclusions and make like ridiculous comparisons or anything like that, but Bobby getting this W over Lesnar at War Games would carry so much weight for him, much like it will carry a lot of weight for Bobby's resume, the same way that Lesnar breaking the streak carried weight for his resume and completely changed the trajectory of Brock's career, of what we see it now. So Lashley getting the win, even though Lashley may get the L at Crown Jewel, but this is going to be a bigger setup for Survivor Series War Games, and so Lashley beating Lesnar at Survivor Series War Games will be for him what Lesnar beating Taker at WrestleMania, did for him, whatever, you know what I mean? Like the thing is, it would open up so many doors. It would solidify Bobby as, just being, the latest, like if like pretty much the latest, like dominant powerhouse type of guy or whatever, somebody that so many people will really have to try to run through or whatever, like whatever the case may be. So like I said, a win at War Games would do for Lashley's career what breaking the streak did for Lesnar's career. So so even though like I said, once again, even though I have Lesnar taking the win at Crown Jewel, but it's going to be a setup for something even greater, something even bigger. So of course, after that, not to take up too much time, but number 4, Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross. I actually have Drew winning that one. Plain and simple, even though this would mean more for Kross, but once again, as I said, as far when it comes to Lesnar versus Lashley, this could be a setup for something bigger at Survivor Series War Games. Like in a sense, for Karrion, to possibly get the W in that one. Number 5, Braun Strowman versus Omos. It's kind of like the one that may put you to sleep. In that sense, I may have to go with it's kind of hard to say. I'm gonna have to go with Braun in that one. You know what I mean? So it's just like whatever. Like I mean, but even though this is a match where where it's the battle of the monsters, whatever. That now they finally get to meet. Especially since Omos was making a name for himself in Braun Strowman's absence, and now Braun is back. And we'll see what this is all about. Number 6, the last woman standing match, Bianca Belair versus Bayley. Once again, I see Bianca retain the title, and so, and so and of course, and the funny thing is, this is another specialty match between Bianca and Bailey. The thing is, like many of the matches, like the most famous matches, have always had some type of gimmick, whether it's the Hell in a Cell match, whether it was the ladder match, and now we have a last woman standing match. So I see Bianca retaining, and she's just been an absolute powerhouse. She's certainly the women's, the female equivalent of John Cena. And when I say that, is that more and more you're starting to see Bianca display feats of strength, and just how dominant she is, just how much of an unstoppable force that she is when it comes to the women's division. And just recently, Bianca has become the longest reigning. I said, like, just recently, and thinking about it is that just recently, Bianca, when it comes to Black women wrestlers, Bianca Belair has had the longest title reign when it comes to Black women wrestlers all time. Bianca has the longest title reign among them. More than 200 days. And so, so if anything, I see this momentum continuing. And for me, it's all about Bianca checking off that horsewoman card. So, so far she's already beaten 3 of the horsewomen. And, all this is just to set up just momentum to build up for the final boss, which is none other than Queen Charlotte herself. So if anything, just to check off the her Bianca's horse women card. So and so as far as that's the reason why I have her defeating Bailey. And number 7, come on now, the Usos versus the Brawling Brutes. I think it's just something for the Usos to do, just for them to be on the card. I got the Usos winning. Let's move on with that. Last but not least, Alexa Bliss and Asuka versus Damage Control. This one can go either way. I'm not sure with this one. Damage Control could take it, but at the same time, I can still see Alexa and Asuka winning this one, and I guess just to give their tag, just to give their title run more weight, even though they're more of a makeshift tag team, and Damage Control is actually a faction. I'm kind of undecided, but I'm going to give a slight edge to Alexa and Asuka. So those are my predictions when it comes to Crown Jewel. So now I'm going to go into, but like I said, now I'm going to go into the PWI. I just picked it up this weekend. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the PWI 500. And I must say that I was thoroughly impressed with the 500 list. They've certainly made up for last year, and the thing is, even though Kenny Omega, was closer when it came to last year's PWI 500, just because of his title reign and everything like that, and but at the same time, I kind of felt like it was a lot of AEW bias. But then again, a lot of people say that that PWI has had their fair share of WWE bias. But at the same time, slow down. But at the same time, Roman was putting on an incredible run. Of course, at the time, and especially coming off the heels of, like I said, coming off the slow down. Especially coming off the heels of, like, his match with Jey Uso, the last man standing match with Kevin Owens, triple threat match with Edge and Daniel Bryan. Well, so, the Money in the Bank match with Edge, SummerSlam with Cena. I'm not too sure, if those matches specifically met the criteria at that time. In fact, since I'm on here, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the magazine itself. I just saw it right here. We're going to the top 500. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So all right. And I get it now. Now, if anything, I certainly understand even more and more the case for in a way, in a way, I certainly see the case why they made the decision that they made, especially when you look at when you look at the evaluation period. So now with this evaluation period, there's no question about it. Roman Reigns was absolutely deserved number one. And so of course, this year's evaluation period went from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. So by that point, Roman certainly covered more ground in between that time. So with that, so of course, with that being said, Roman Reigns has become the number one on the PWI 500 for the second time in his career. The first time was like 2016, and that, if of course at that time that's when he was the big dog. If anything, he wasn't. He was nowhere near who he is now. He was nowhere near the type of talker that he is now. And of course, and I'll say, like, even certainly when it comes to a character, not even close to who he is now. This is Roman at his apex right now. And so when you look at the criteria, he checks off those boxes. When you look at in-ring achievement, look no further than his championship run. Roman is one of the top 5 longest reigning champions in WWE history. Also when it comes to influence, culture influence, him being the needle mover, him being the tribal chief, that this whole thing has become a phenomenon in and of itself. You know what I mean? So as far as that, like I say, he certainly checks off that box. Checks off that box. Technical ability, nobody's mistaking him for Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, or Bryan Danielson. But at the same time, considering WWE style, he can certainly go. And when you understand that the way that WWE is, when it comes to less is more, he certainly makes up for it. So as far as that, like I say, hands down, hands down without question, Roman Reigns is, start over. Hands down, Roman Reigns certainly deserves the number one spot. If there were anything that would change, like I say, as far as Okada, I didn't really see see that much of a sample size to really see him as number 2. But then again, of course, since PWI has to, especially since PWI has to cater to the New Japan audience and things like that. So I see the reason why. Number 3 was CM Punk. Whatever, I guess because of his return, because of merchandise sales, things like that. But when it comes to his title reigns, they were very, very abbreviated. You know what I mean? So, if anything, I would switch Punk with Moxley. I would put Seth Rollins in the top 10. Hangman Page is where he is. Actually, I would rank Lashley ahead of Hangman Page. If anything, I would switch Hangman Page out with Bobby Lashley. Cody is, whatever, you know what I mean? Bryan Danielson, I don't really have too much of a problem with that. Big E, I would probably take him out of the top 10, maybe at number 11, just because um, let me start over. Um, I'll say this, to me, I think in large part, because he's missed so much time with the injury, and that, and if anything, if nothing else, that bleeds into the evaluation period. So, so if anything, that's certainly eating up a lot of that time. So it's just like whatever. Jonathan Gresham, whatever. Especially because of what he's done, especially with what he's done, as the ROH champion previously. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? But other than that, not too many complaints when it comes to the men's side. You know what I mean? So I'm just glad that that Roman's number one. I will put Moxley in the top 10. Rollins is at number 17. I'll actually move him higher. I'll actually move him higher than Matt Cardona, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? So MJF, whatever, like yada yada yada. But overall, I'm thoroughly pleased with with the men's side of the PWI 500. However, when it comes to the women's side, they got a long way to go. That list has a long way to go. Number one, in my estimation, Bianca should have been number one on that list. She's actually number two behind Sharia or Sharia, from Stardom. So that, and but at the same time, of course, Stardom. The thing is they're very credible when it comes to women's wrestlers. So in fact, three of them. In fact, there were three women from Stardom that made the top 10 list. So that just goes to show how significant Stardom is when it comes to women's wrestling. So it's whatever. However, I will put Mandy Rose in the top 10. She made number two. She was number 21 on the list, which was completely out of order, which is ridiculous. Because of the fact that this year, in fact, yesterday, she officially celebrated being the NXT Women's Champion for 365 days. In fact, she's the third longest reigning NXT. She's the third longest reigning women's champion in NXT history, behind Shayna Baszler and Asuka. But Asuka, had a reign of over 500 plus days off of one title reign. Shayna, did it with two. So Mandy Rose is third all time when it comes to longest reigning NXT Women's Champions, surpassing Charlotte at fourth. On this list, Charlotte made number 8. I probably would have put her 10th or whatever, if nothing else. But the thing is, there's not much of a sample size when it comes to Charlotte's body of work over this evaluation period. Charlotte was more of a legacy selection, and they know that the moment she comes back, on a consistent basis, it's going to be top 10 level material right there in of itself. So that was more, like I said, more of a name value legacy pick. I would have put Sasha Banks higher, and especially considering the body of work that she's done, both her and Naomi, long before this incident happened with the walkout. So as far as I'm concerned, Sasha should be higher. Thunder Rosa, not too now with that one. If anything, for me, Thunder Rosa would probably be like top 3. Becky Lynch certainly top 5, maybe number 4. Jade Cargill, whatever. She's been undefeated, super dominant, whatever. But like I said, Charlotte should be lower than number 8. Mandy should be in the top 10. And so, Trisha Dora was much lower, like number 53 on this list, which is which is ridiculous. You know what I mean? So Trisha Dora is like a indie women's wrestling legend out here. So she deserves way more respect. And like I said, those are just my thoughts on it. Shout out to Keeks, and how, especially with the way that she went off on the on her All Elite podcast, with Public Enemies and stuff. And so All Elite with Keeks and Friends. And so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Keeks deserves to be on that PWI Women's Committee as well. Like I said, but of course, shout out to those that are already on there, such as PR from Queen PR from those wrestling girls, you know what I mean, and also I think somebody from Wrestling Wind Down, I think one of the calls on there, you know what I mean. So if anything, I think there needs to be more, representation, among women, especially among Black women as well. Black women when it comes to evaluating these lists. So the men's list was great. The women's list, they got a long way to go. You know what I mean? If anything, just do better. You know what I mean? So the thing is, I'm not gonna, I don't want to, call out too many names, but they're just, few other names I think that I really would nominate to be on that committee, other than Keeks. Like I said, PR is on there. Also, speaking of, I was, also consider Queen PR's co-host Krista, to be on there as well. Janelle from Jobber Tears, Shantice from Talk of Champions, so many of them that you could put on there as well. Stephanie Hardy from from the Hardy's Wrestling Podcast. You know what I mean? So many knowledgeable women podcasters that that know the product like the front and back of the hand. And so I think it's important to give them a voice, to give, for them to be on platforms like that, to make these decisions, to come up with these evaluations as well. That way, this list will have the same credibility, they have the same kind of energy as the PWI 500. So, so those are my thoughts on all these situations. So if anything else, that's, so if anything, like I said, those are my thoughts about the topics this week. So I gave my predictions, my PWI 500. I look forward to, to their evaluation of, when it comes to the best matches, wrestler of the year, tag team of the year, and things like that. So I look forward to that part of PWI as well. Like I said, as far as the 500 list, not to make complaints, but the women's got to do a better job. But other than that, like I said, those are my thoughts, those are my ideas, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in.